On Friday, November 13th, 2015, my mom, my sister, and I had a consultation with an oncologist who was overseeing an experimental trial at a research institute in New York City for a drug that we hoped would stop the progression of the cancer that had reformed in my mom's brain after exhausting all of the conventional treatment options for non-Hodgkin lymphoma. On paper, my mom was already eligible to participate in the trial, but in order to be fully greenlit, one, we'd had to have this initial consultation and sign over all the consent forms to participate. We also had to meet with a financial advisor to make sure that they had our insurance information and for us to understand what our obligations would be. And then my mom had to do all these diagnostic tests again, which she had just done in Wichita, Kansas. But because this research institute wasn't in charge of how they were handled, she had to repeat them all there to make sure that they were done correctly, at least in their mind. So she had to repeat a lumbar puncture, she had to repeat diagnostic scans, and then more blood work. In order to do that, she had to get on this schedule. The problem was that it was Friday, so the week was already effectively over, especially in the minds of a medical institution. Anyone who has gone through a medical crisis knows that no one gets better on the weekend as everything shutters down and the only thing available are emergency services. So she had to wait an entire weekend to even know when she would be able to get on the schedule to have all that stuff done, to know if she would be able to participate in this experimental trial that was kind of her only lifeline at that point. Otherwise, she knew that she would die from cancer. Obviously, I witnessed the psychological impact this waiting period has on another person while being a primary caregiver for my mom, and it's documented in the days that I included for November 13th through 17th in my book. But when I went through the process of being diagnosed for cancer and then going through cancer treatment myself, I felt it all firsthand. So in the lead up to my initial diagnosis, I had all these different diagnostic procedures and scans and things like that, but it all culminated when I had an excisional lymph node biopsy done the day before Thanksgiving. So this all applies to holidays as well, because then right after I had it done, it closed down for Thanksgiving, then Black Friday, then I had the weekend. So that was all out of the equation. What could have been done in 2 days had they been business days ended up taking 6 days in total for me to get the results that yes, I had Hodgkin lymphoma. So if you are ever in a situation where you're caring for a loved one who's going through a medical crisis or you're going through one yourself, be prepared for these experiences because it is inevitable that major appointments will fall on a Friday or right before a holiday, and you have to prepare yourself for a very torturous waiting period. Because as much as you can distract yourself from the reality of what is going on, anytime you have a quiet moment, all those anxieties about the uncertainty of your future will flood back into your mind. Doesn't matter if you're waiting to be diagnosed with cancer, waiting to find out if you've relapsed, waiting to find out if you're eligible for an experimental trial, like in the case of my mom. Those fears will flood back in, and you will be reminded that in this holding pattern, which you have no control over, the cancer could be growing and becoming more formidable with every passing second. So it seems very counterintuitive that medical systems can take a break from providing you the care that you need because cancer doesn't take breaks. What feels like salt in the wound then is when the work week finally starts back up and then you still hear nothing, which is exactly what happens on November 16th. The research institute didn't call my mom with the schedule that she was anticipating. And she didn't get a call in the morning on Tuesday either. And by that point, she's starting to spiral in her head about what's going on. Like maybe she wasn't eligible anymore. Maybe they were going over the documentation and found something that they didn't see before. So it was just so nerve-wracking, and it didn't need to be that way. They could have just given her a heads up that, oh, we just need a little extra time to put this schedule together because it's complex. But no, that outreach never happened. A similar situation unfolded for me last year in 2024 when I was having my 2-year post-stem cell transplant scan to determine if I was still in remission. So I had them done on a Thursday. In the past, UCLA would flip around the results really quickly. Like sometimes I would get them on my way home, but by Friday, I didn't have anything. Still kind of normal. I didn't think anything too badly at that point, but I was still going through that torturous waiting period over the weekend, just thinking, do I have cancer again? Did it come back? On Monday, crickets. Nothing. Then Tuesday rolls around and I am an absolute mess because I start thinking that my oncologist is intentionally withholding the results because I had an appointment scheduled with her for that afternoon and I thought that she wanted to tell me in person that the cancer had come back. And so that is why she wasn't uploading anything to my chart. So I roll up to that appointment fully thinking that I have relapsed and that I'm going to have to start this holding treatment for Hodgkin lymphoma, which is a type of drug that you go on for the rest of your life so that it doesn't allow the cancer to progress, but you never get to a permanent remission. And yes, you can have a pretty normal life if you go onto that, but it was still just the reality that maybe I would forever have cancer and that I wouldn't be able to live as freely as I did when I was in remission. But then my oncologist told me, oh no, she didn't have the results either, which is something that could have been communicated to me at any time during this process. So I wasn't prepared to, jump off a ledge thinking that my cancer had fully come back, which is how my brain was working in those moments because I just was fearing the absolute worst. I would not wish the anxiety that happens when you're in a waiting period on even the worst human beings in this world. But what I do wish is that the healthcare system in the United States run at full capacity 7 days a week so that individuals who are going through a medical crisis get the care that they need as quickly as possible. The next video I'll be releasing will be on November 18th, and I'll be talking about the dehumanizing nature of diagnostic tests. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description, and I will see you all on the 18th.